Welcome to Betting on Success, a podcast that dives into the future of gaming with a focus on cashless technology. Hosted by Mark Morton, aka Morty. From cashless innovations to incredible career stories, this is where gaming professionals stay ahead. Betting on Success is brought to you by your friends at Marker Tracks and Coin, leading the way in cashless gaming.
Hello, and this is Mark Morton, and welcome to the latest edition of Betting on Success. I am super excited about today. The individual I have today as my guest has and shares with two of my favorite passions, gaming and sports. We're going to talk a little bit about both. The senior reporter for the Nevada Independent, Howard Stutz. Howard, it's a pleasure.
Good to see you. And where's the dealer? We got chips.
Yeah,
We're gonna need cards, and we can go to a little blackjack.
Yeah, exactly. Do you have the money with you, just
No.
in case? No. Okay, so we won't gamble today. All right. So, as I always do when we start these shows, a little bit about yourself, where you're from, your family, and those sorts of things.
I've been in Vegas almost 40 years now. I started in December of 1982 as a sports writer for the Las Vegas Sun. Thought I was going to be about a 6-month year stint and then go back to California where I'm from and hopefully get a job at the LA Times. Didn't work that way. So it was a little bit of a change, but I enjoyed my time at the Sun, covered sports, moved over to news side, covered education, and then ended up at the RJ, a couple of stints at the RJ, to put it this way, because I worked there for a while, covering gaming back in the, left about 1991, 92, and went into the PR business for a little bit. Did that for a while, realized I wasn't very good at it, so I ended up back in journalism, back freelance, and with the RJ for my second stint, up until 2016 when the sale happened, and then bounced around a little bit. CDC Gaming Reports was my...
very familiar with that.
I was the executive editor of that, and then at the same time I started freelancing for the Nevada Independent in 2020 and went on full-time in 2021, and that is where I will be until John Ralston says, get the hell out of here. But I love what I'm doing right now with the Indy.
So you've been here for 40 years, but you're not from here. You were raised actually in California.
Raised in Southern California, a little town called Calabasas, which is not so little right now. It's a part of the San Fernando Valley, and grew up there. Went to L.A. Pierce College, San Diego State, and then ended up in Las Vegas.
And so at San Diego State, what was your major?
Journalism.
Journalism.
Worked for the Daily Aztec, interned for the Los Angeles Times. They had an edition in San Diego at the time. I was looking at, I was doing news, but then I always I gravitated back to sports, which I always loved. So I got to do some sports stuff for the Times. And when I came up to Vegas, it was to be a sports writer for the Las Vegas Sun. And
how did you get recruited to Las Vegas?
I had a colleague at the Sun who I went to college with, who I went to San Diego State. I've lost touch with him. John Schumacher was his name. He was a sports writer. He ended up going up to San Francisco, where he was from, and covered the San Francisco 49ers during the heyday with Montana and they won all the Super Bowls. But that's how they had an opening in the Sun, and he helped get me the job there.
So when you were growing up, you said you loved sports. What got you into journalism? When you went to college, did you know that that's what you wanted to do?
Yeah, because, actually, I went to a community college, L.A. Pierce Community College, in LA, after I graduated high school from Agoura High School. Go Chargers.
Yeah.
And I went to a Pierce College, and I met another fellow student who was a Vietnam veteran at the time, and he was telling me about his journalism classes and how much he liked it. So I took one of the journalism classes, and then went over to the school newspaper and just kind of talked my way into the weekly newspaper that we had at Pierce Community College, and got involved with that way. And then when I went to San Diego State, it was specifically for journalism, and got involved with the Daily Aztec. So I've always been involved in newspapers. Didn't really try TV. Or this now.
Right.
Podcast, radio. I do a lot of that, but I was always a writer. I enjoyed writing.
And so your family's from California.
Mm-hmm. Well, my wife is from California.
Okay.
But we met up here.
Okay. So I got to interrupt you
I
because
know.
I love this. So tell me what your wife did when she was, and what she became,
Right.
but
Well,
what she was doing when you met her.
She my wife, who's probably well known, Valerie Vega. She was a Clark County District Court
Yep.
judge for a number of years. We met. She was in the district attorney's office in Clark County. She had come here, was the court interpreter for a while, then went back to LA to go to law school at USC. While she was in law school, she started skating roller derby as a hobby, as a little extra money on the side.
Yeah.
And with the Los Angeles Thunderbirds, the LA T-Birds. If you grew up in LA, you knew the T-Birds
No doubt.
and the roller games. And we met at a party up here in Vegas. I had a friend. She was at the party because it was a lawyer's house, and his sister actually worked at the Sun with me in the old back shop, print shop, where we worked with the sports section. And we went to the party and we met. I don't know. We had a conversation, and she said how she skated roller derby. I said I cover football. That's not I roller derby. Yeah,
Right.
So we had one date, and our second date was I went and watched her skate roller derby with the LA T-Birds at the old Showboat
So
Sports
good.
Pavilion.
So good. I love that.
I wrote a column about it. Dragged John L. Smith,
I remember.
well known.
Really know him very
He
well.
wrote a column. He wrote a column about going to roller derby, and we, and Valerie and I have now been married 38 years.
Congratulations. It's awesome.
She went onto the bench, district court bench, retired. Our daughter, though, I'm the only non-lawyer in the family,
Yeah.
along with the dogs, is what I tell people. My daughter ended up going to law school here at UNLV at Boyd.
Yep.
And she's now in Phoenix as a prosecutor, so followed her mother's footsteps.
It's awesome.
But she's a very good writer, so I always say that she got that from me. So
There you go. So you moved to Vegas, early 1980s.
Mm-hmm.
What a great time to cover sports, right?
Well, it was interesting because, it was the big UNLV football. UNLV football, UNLV basketball. I covered UNLV football. They had a quarterback by the name of Randall Cunningham.
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah.
And I actually got to vote that year in the Heisman Trophy, with the writers. And Randall finished up high in that and followed his career when he went to the Eagles, Philadelphia Eagles. But, I enjoyed, it was a great time to cover sports when it was, UNLV basketball was the
thing.
was the thing in town.
Yeah.
I mean, it's changed a lot, and I've been involved in some of this change covering that for the Independent. But sports back in the '80s was all UNLV, and Thomas and Mack was a brand new arena.
Yeah.
Imagine that.
Yeah, it's funny, like growing up here, right?
Mm-hmm.
That was it for us. That's all we had.
Mm-hmm.
And now you look at today, which I want to talk to you a little bit about. You look about how the expansion of professional sports, which we never thought was going to ever happen.
Yeah.
Now the Knights and the Raiders and the A's, very
A's,
shortly.
maybe.
Maybe. Yeah. Yeah. So Don Logan's a real good friend of mine. And
Oh.
we talked about that all the time when we ever have professional baseball. Give me your thoughts about the A's.
First off, I did get to cover the first professional baseball game here at Cashman Field when it opened, when the Padres came in to play the Mariners, I think it was.
Yep.
Spring training game, and Steve Garvey had left the Dodgers, signed with the Padres, and played in that game. And I'll give you a little trivia question.
Yep.
Who hit the very first home run in Las Vegas Stars history?
Oh.
I only know that because I was at
Kevin
the game.
McHale.
No.
Not Kevin McHale, Kevin McReynolds.
Kevin McReynolds, no. Kevin McHale, but no.
He would never hit a home run. He's a basketball player. But
It was Bruce Bochy.
my God.
Bruce Bochy, the manager who won 3 World Series with the Giants, your favorite
my
team.
Yep.
Now with the Rangers. He was a knock-around minor league catcher and was with the Padres system. Hit a home run, the very first home run in Cashman Field history. So I did a sidebar story, right? Small story about it. And I talked to him after the game, and I said, "What do you think about playing in Vegas?" And he said, "Well, I lost all my meal money playing blackjack last night downtown." So there's your little trivia story. But it's, the Stars becoming the Aviators and moving to this ballpark.
Beautiful ballpark.
It's a beautiful ballpark in
Yeah.
Summerlin. You mentioned Don Logan. He is the dean of sports here in Las Vegas. Done an incredible job.
Yeah. The A's.
Yeah.
I keep bringing you back to the A's.
That's okay.
Yeah.
In about 2021, when at the Indy, John Ralston asked me, he said, "Look, we got to look at this. There's all this talk about the A's doing a stadium here. Would you pick it up as a beat?" And I did. And I followed it through the legislature, followed everything since 2021 with the A's. I went to Oakland in 2023 and talked to fans about, they're going to lose the team. By then, the bill had passed in the legislature. And it's been kind of back and forth. Now, we saw what happened was, it's a hard example, is we have the Golden Knights and the Raiders. MGM and AEG built T-Mobile Arena.
Yep.
And so there was no question about that. And then they got the NHL expansion team. T-Mobile was needed for the NHL to go ahead and approve a team to come here to Vegas. The Raiders came to town, got the backing of Las Vegas Sands for support, basically, to push to get Allegiant Stadium built. That was pushed through the legislature, as you remember, $750 million in public money. That's based on hotel room taxes. So if you go book a room on the Strip, there's a small room tax out of that. That's what goes to pay for Allegiant Stadium. The A's were a little bit of a different story. They couldn't figure out where the site was going to go. We were going back and forth. They settled on a site in the middle of the legislature, 50 acres west of the Strip, of the old Wild Wild West casino. And then they pulled out of that, mainly because the Culinary Union, which has a longstanding hatred with station casinos, they got that killed. So then they moved over to a site they talked about before, the old Tropicana. 35 acres. They're going to use 9 acres of it. Got the deal done there. But how the public money was paid for through the series of bonds and different mechanisms that the public was hard to explain to the public, and the public couldn't understand. That's where a lot of the controversy came from. Plus the fact none of the financing was really lined up. They said, $350 million plus the rest of it will come from something that the A's will come up with the financing, and you'll have your $1.5 billion stadium. The first renderings seemed to be, pie in the sky. The next renderings were, okay, there's a dome, it's a closed roof stadium, glass wall, 9 acres. Is this really $1.5 billion? When I told you I went to Oakland, there was a lot of controversy about this because they didn't want the team to leave. I saw the site on the Oakland wharf, the Oakland waterfront. It's like, why didn't they want this site here? Right. Beautiful. Oakland was trying to figure out how to pay for it. That didn't work, and that's why they came to Vegas. Now they've left. Then, as 2024, they decided to leave Oakland and go to Sacramento for playing this AAA stadium in Sacramento for the next 3 years while the project is built on the Strip. I went to Sacramento just recently, and I talked to players, I talked to fans, I've got some coverage in the Indy that's running. It's a nice ballpark. They're getting more fans there, I think, than they got in Oakland.
Yeah.
But, we're still, the question is the financing for Vegas. Now, I got an interview with John Fisher, the owner, while I was in Sacramento. He admitted that the price is now over $2 billion. I think the smartest thing the A's did was hire Mark Morton, the former Raiders president, to be the president of the team and help steer this stadium across the finish line. He built Allegiant Stadium. He was the main driver behind that. And I can tell you, I've said this before publicly, the day that Mark Morton was announced, I got 4 or 5 phone calls from folks who were very negative on the stadium, but immediately said, well, it's going to get built now. So we'll see. It's a 3-year project. I think there's some cushion there with Sacramento, that they have a year's cushion. If it doesn't finish by 2028, they can play another season there. We'll see. I think the skepticism is always going to be out there. But once I think we see steel start coming up, which may be sometime early next year on the side of the Tropicana, then it'll start looking more real.
So I want to ask you a question about the A's. So when I look at the Vegas Golden Knights, right? That's the closest thing in my lifetime to what UNLV Rebels used to be. Mm-hmm. I mean, everybody goes to the games, they all love, but they were our own team. They're a true expansion team. The Raiders came from Oakland or LA or however you remember them, right? Yeah. And now you got the A's. Do you think the community will embrace the A's like
the Knights? The Knights were a real special story because look, they came in, they did everything right. It was an expansion team. Everybody thought, okay, it's an expansion team. They're gonna be a disaster. They'll unload a bunch of these players, start building for the future. 1 October happened.
Yeah.
And the way the Knights embraced the community, that won everybody over. And then they had this ridiculously magical season and went to the Stanley Cup final in their first year, which never happened before.
No.
The A's right now are building a young nucleus. I wrote about this in my newsletter. I talked to a lot of the players. These guys are like, you have a kid, Nick Kurtz, who's 21 years old. He looks like he looks like a 6'5", 12-year-old.
Right.
He hit 4 home runs in a game, became the 20th player to ever do that.
Yeah.
I think he's the only rookie to do that.
Yeah.
They've got all these young players that they've been building up over the time, and they're forming a nucleus. I don't know how they're going to do this year. They may still finish last in the AL West. They signed their manager, Mark Morton, through 2028. He's done a really good job with this team. This nucleus is being built. Even if they make the playoffs in the next couple of years before they come in here, that may help. I think as long as they keep them together. Now, they did trade their closer a couple weeks ago at the trade deadline. What's his name? Miller. They traded him. Yeah. If they keep it together, they do well, that may help win over the fan base as soon as they can. Baseball's different than football. Look, the Raiders had a fan base from L.A., from Oakland, follows them everywhere. It didn't matter where they moved to.
Right.
They were going to follow them. You go out to around Allegiant Stadium on Raider game days, all those little motels that surround that area, the parking lots are packed with California license plates and Raider fans. It's like little Raider Nation for the whole weekend. So, yeah, it's a different – baseball's a little different. You know, 82 games a year. You know, you're going to get fans. Look at Sacramento right now. The games I went to, they were playing Seattle. A lot of Seattle fans came down. Obviously, there's some interest around Cal Riley, the Mariners catcher, who's hitting home runs like you wouldn't believe.
Yeah, he's really good.
There's some interest there. When they brought the Yankees came in, it was packed everywhere around Sacramento. It'll be that way here. The Dodgers will play here a little bit. They'll see Ohtani. Sorry, when the Giants come, your Giants. Listen, when the biggest crowds they've had in Sacramento was the Giants A's series. The Bay. What is it? The Battle for the Bay Bridge or whatever they called it. They still came. A lot of Giants fans went over to Sacramento. So, and plus Sacramento is the Giants AAA team. Somehow they're sharing this stadium with the AAA team, the next few years. You're going to get that type of fan base will come. We'll see. I mean, it's too early to really tell. But like I said, if they keep this young nucleus together, they got a shot.
And I love baseball, so I really want it to succeed. I want to ask you a question before I dive into gaming with you. Okay, so I noticed on your title, it's called a reporter. But you're really a journalist,
right?
What's the difference? But what's the difference between that? I found that interesting.
Well, I'm a senior reporter, but I think it's because I'm older than everybody on the staff. Half the staff can be as young enough to be my children. That's how.
I know this. I feel that here. So I'm with you, Howard. So.
It's a reporter is a journalist, or it's the same as a journalist. A journalist over covers like the whole spectrum, from TV reporters to TV anchors and commentators or whatever. I consider myself a journalist, but I consider myself a reporter and a writer at heart. So you can call me whatever you want. Just don't call me late for dinner. That's what I. But I really, it's really an over. I guess journalism is an over-encompassing, covers the broad spectrum of the profession. I don't mind being called a reporter. I like being a reporter. That's what I do. We have reporters' notebooks. I still carry a bunch of them. Record everything though, but I carry the notebook with me. So that's really the way to look at it.
So how many people do you think you've interviewed over the years? I prepped you with that question. You knew I was going to ask you.
Yeah,
that, so.
I don't. I mean, it's hundreds. I mean, I've interviewed everybody from professional athletes. I've interviewed Donald Trump when he was back in 2005 when he was building the tower never thought he'd run for president. But I could, because look, Donald Trump was building a non-gaming hotel on the Strip. He was across the street from Sheldon Adelson and Steve Wynn.
I remember that.
He likes attention.
Yes, he does. Yeah.
And who better to get attention from the gaming reporter, the lead gaming reporter for the Las Vegas Review-Journal at the time. So I could call him anytime I want on any subject, and I did. I wouldn't call. I don't think he talked to me now, but
you never know.
Yeah, I know, but no, it's
remember.
I don't know. It's in the hundreds.
Yeah,
I mean, 1,000 maybe.
So of the gaming executives that you've interviewed, who's the most unique? I know it's a tough question because there's probably a bunch of them, but is there one that stands out that you really thought, wow?
I mean, listen, I've interviewed Steve Wynn.
Yeah. And
back before everything happened, where he lost when he was basically thrown out of the company, Steve Wynn, John L. Smith described it best. Interviewing Steve Wynn is like you ask him how to build. The first question is, how do you build a wristwatch? It takes him an hour to answer the question.
Yeah.
You get one question in, and he just goes on and on and on. Sheldon Adelson was probably the hardest, especially I actually interviewed him right after the sale of the newspaper, and I asked him why he bought the paper, and he said, and he started getting mad. He said, "I'm not going to tell you." And I wanted to say, "Well, I thought you didn't buy the paper. I thought it was your family that bought the paper," but got cut off before I could ask that question. Gaming execs are unique. They're business people.
Yeah.
The CEOs nowadays are Wall Street, business trained executives. That's what they are. A lot of them didn't come out of the casino industry, not like the old school of the past. There's a lot of, I will say right now, I don't talk a lot of the CEOs anymore. They don't want to deal with the media. The one CEO, and I'll give him a shout out, is that I talk to after every quarterly earnings call is Keith Smith, the CEO of Boyd Gaming.
Great guy.
Because he and I covered him when he was named CEO of Boyd Gaming. So we've known each other for, parts of 3 decades almost. So yeah, it's a different era in covering this industry. Publicly traded, it's going to be real fascinating now because with covering the slot machine industry.
Yeah.
Company that Marker tracks and, knows very well. None of the companies, the big 3 companies, are going to be listed in the stock markets here.
I wanted to ask you about that. I didn't quite, I spent my whole career on that side, right? Selling slot machines until this recent stint here. And I found that I didn't quite understand why.
IGT got bought by a private equity firm, by Apollo.
Right.
So they're private equity owned. They're off the markets. Aristocrat came out of Australia, so they've always been listed in the Australian market, have big offices here, have never went for the U.S. listing. Light & Wonder is a combination was built out of like WMS, Bally's, Shufflemaster, some other smaller companies. They've always been listed on the NASDAQ, but their company, the CEO and the chairman are from Australia.
Yep.
Matt Wilson's from Australia.
In fact, he'll be on 2
Matt's
weeks,
a great
2 weeks on the show.
Matt is that's one of my favorite interviews.
Yeah.
If you want to know that he's absolutely one of my favorite CEOs to interview. But they're just going to go be listed on the Australian exchange. They made a financial decision behind it, so it's going to be interesting for the Wall Street analysts. I don't know how they're going to cover the slot machine industry right now. So it's going to. I don't know what kind of clarity we'll get from the companies now on what they're doing and sales and who's doing what. So it'll be a little challenge going forward.
So you've been here 40 years. So you know, like I do, old school Las Vegas, what it used to be like, and now what it is and grown into today.
Yeah.
So what do you miss about the old school, and what do you love about the new school?
Oh, it's funny. I came here though at the end of the mob era.
Yeah.
And that's kind of when I came here. And in the movie Casino, there's the scene where where the Frank De Niro playing the Frank Lefty Rosenthal character talks about the bodies buried in the desert. There's holes in the desert. I'm pretty sure I live in far west Summerlin. That's where some of the holes are.
Yeah, right.
But so I always think about that. But it's a corporate world. the gaming industry. I mean, you have few company. This company is privately owned. That helps. You have a few of the companies that can do things. They're not beholden to Wall Street and making shareholders happy. You got, Michael Gaughan is the best example.
Yeah.
Owned South Point. He ended up he sold his business to Boyd, and then bought him. And then basically he gave him back all his stock, and he kept what is now the South Point.
Yep.
He says, I'll never do, this is all I want to do. That's what he does best. And because you're not beholden to the stock markets and the investment community and whatnot. So that's really where the change has been with gaming. But I'm fascinated by the growth. Remember, I came here when Dan Hennigan is a guy who was the journalist who at the time covered Atlantic City for the Atlantic City Press. And I covered gaming for the Review Journal. We used to joke we're the only two gaming reporters in the country because nobody else had gaming.
Right.
I've been fascinated by the growth. I love following it. I spent some time recently up in Sacramento, for the A's.
Yeah.
But I went to a couple of the tribal casinos to see how the market is there. I've done a lot on the tribal community in different markets. I've been to different cities around the U.S. where gaming has expanded into like Cleveland and Ohio of all places. The RJ back in the mid-2000s sent me to Macau. Sent myself and Jeff Scheid, who's a longtime photographer here in Vegas, and I still work with him at the Indy. We went to Macau for a week to see how the market is. The most fascinating story I think I've ever covered was I went to Biloxi, Mississippi in 2005, 3 or 4 weeks after Hurricane Katrina wiped out the whole community, including the gaming market, their casino market. It's come back, but that was a fascinating story to cover. And then just see how gaming is just integrated in all these different communities around the U.S. It's a fascinating to have followed it from Vegas to where it's now. A casino on your every. I want to say I don't want to say on every street corner, but it's they're just another business in some of these communities, whether it's like the local casinos here, an entertainment option with the restaurants and the movie theaters, and it's that way in other markets here that they're an entertainment option, and these gaming companies operate a lot of them too.
So that brings me to a question I want to ask your thought on, right? So before, when I first started calling on these regional tribal properties, I mean, it was a sprung structure. It was a tent with a bunch of slot machines in it, right? That's what it was. Now you go to places like Yamava and down in Southern California, or Pechanga, or
I was just going to say Pechanga,
Mystic Lake. Now they're actually destination resorts. Now, how much do you think? Because before everybody was fearful that nobody would come to Vegas when they had gaming anywhere, but everybody had to come to see Vegas, right? Do you think that this growth in that sort of development on these properties is going to hurt Vegas, or no?
I don't think so. I think it hasn't in the past. It's as long as Vegas keeps evolving.
Right.
Vegas, having professional sports,
huge. That's
a reason people come here now.
Yeah.
They follow their team. The Raiders are a prime example. The Golden Knights are the best example. When you come in there, and sometimes half the arena is. I went to a game on New Year's Eve day when they were playing the Toronto Maple Leafs. Half the arena was blue and white.
Yeah,
Sports the Raiders. It'll change if they start winning. But otherwise, for now, the bulk of the fans, bulk of the tenants are visiting. Yeah. I got into a little debate with Mark Bedane because I told him I went to the game against the Steelers and it was 75% Steelers fans. The yellow towel started waving, and Bedane said no, it was like 60%. I said no. But that's what helps here. The Sphere.
Yeah.
You'd be surprised how many. I mean, I think that is a huge draw, not just for people to look at, but for the concerts that are there. So, tourists will come here for it, or businesses people that have the expense account, they'll come to it. So as long as Vegas continues to do what it has done, evolve, Yeah, you can put casinos. We got casinos out right in San Diego and, L.A. area. They're less than a 4-hour drive from here.
Yeah.
And you have Yamava. You mentioned Yamava. The San Manuel tribe bought the Palms.
Yeah.
And making a go of it here. Hard Rock is owned by the Seminole tribe out of Florida.
Yep.
And they're transforming the former Mirage into Hard Rock Las Vegas. So that's the kind of, and they'll be bringing their customers. They have customers in Florida that want to come to Vegas. They're going to bring them here. So that's where that comes into play.
So you brought up the slot manufacturers, right? And when you think about gaming now, technology, I mean, what do you think the next step is from a technology standpoint?
We're seeing it happen with, cashless, obviously.
Yeah.
That's the biggest step. And people, you come on, money's on your phone, you connect your phone, and boom, now you can go ahead and play. That's the biggest step, I think. And it's going to take more companies to start embracing it. But it's other markets do it. There's customers that come in from other markets.
Yep.
That's what they have to change. We're seeing this change with sports betting. It used to be when sports betting started expanding across the country. So say you have the BetMGM app. You had to download a separate BetMGM app in any state. If you come to Vegas and if I live here, I live in Vegas, so I use the BetMGM app. If I went to Phoenix, I'd have to download the BetMGM Arizona. Now with the mobile wallets, it's now becoming seamless that you're able to transfer your funds between states. So that's a big push. And I think, so you see I think the companies are adapting to their customers, and that's what the change will be. When IGT and Every coming together as IGT, now you have the financial technology transaction company is owned by a slot machine company.
Yeah.
So now you see that it's that merger. I think that convergence is what we're going to see more and more of.
Okay, so 40 years in the business. I know.
You're aging me. Okay,
well,
thank you.
I'm right with you, Howard.
That's okay.
So, do you still have the same passion that you did when you first started?
I do, because of the team at the Nevada Independent.
Okay.
I'm going to say right now, I am the oldest member of the Nevada Independent team, older than John Ralston by 3.5 months. I remind him of that. But I've got a team of reporters that I love working with that I'm learning from them. We do videos now. We do, much to my daughter's horror, I told her I'm on TikTok.
Right.
And she said, no, you're not.
Yeah.
But we do videos now, and that's how we have to, we don't have a print edition anymore. Nobody, print is kind of gone away. I used to love the print edition of to see your story the next morning or that afternoon. It's all online. We have to drive people to our website. That's what the change has been. I've learned that from these younger reporters who then come to me and ask, because I know where all these bodies are buried in Vegas, not literally, not figuratively, not literally, but I can help them along with different sources and make them, make my sources that I've built up over the years available to them. I really enjoy it, and that's what kept me going on this.
So how long are you going to keep going?
We'll see. I don't know.
Yeah.
I honestly don't know. I'm just not ready to retire yet. I like what I'm doing. My daughter lives in Phoenix now, and getting married with that plug-in, getting married in November. So as long as I keep loving what I'm doing, and plus, look, we have reporters spread out all over. We have reporters in Reno, Carson City, and down here. We're just about to hire on our new DC reporter. I've written stories for the Indy from my in-laws' place in Santa Barbara.
Yeah.
I say their wet bar is is the Santa Barbara bureau. So you can report from anywhere.
Yeah.
There's things you can do to report via the phone or Zoom or however you talk to sources. So I'm going to keep doing this as long as I keep enjoying it, and I'm still enjoying it.
Well, I hope you do. You do a phenomenal job. You're now my favorite, and I can't believe I'm going to say Dodger fan that I know. So
a little funny story. I was in Tahoe for a story I did recently, and the PR person at the Bally's Tahoe read my bio and saw I was a Dodger, so she gave me a Dodgers hat, which I'm glad she did
And
because I needed something. It was really hot up there, and I didn't have my hat, so I wore that around. And when I came back to the Reno airport, the first TSA guy goes, "Wrong hat. You've been wearing a Giant hat." In Reno.
He was right, by the way.
Yeah,
he was
so
right.
my closest friends are Giants fans. My buddy Frank, my buddy Vince, longtime Giants fans. So
Well, I really appreciate your time today, Howard.
Anytime.
Thank
Really
you.
enjoyed it.
And thank you guys for joining us. See you next time.
That's a wrap for this episode of Betting on Success. If you enjoyed the conversation, be sure to like, subscribe, and share. Stay tuned for more insights from gaming industry leaders. We'll see you next time.